right, Beyond the Gates fans, we are here with Tuesday's episode I believe 155, and I don't really know how to feel about this episode. I mean, they are seemingly adding an air of mystery surrounding Andre, and some people are speculating he's not really who he says he is, which I cannot begin to fathom how ridiculous that is if it turns out Andre isn't the real Andre Richardson. That makes zero sense to me. And in terms of the Naomi and Jacob subplot, I I, I don't know. I just feel like, and somebody in the comments, I believe it was for my October 20th trailer and synopsis breakdown. Yeah, Jeremy, you need to kill that noise on pregnant women and how they should feel because you're a man and yada yada yada. But in terms of this particular plot, it's to me a prime example of Naomi being her own worst enemy, and as a result, she is probably going to self-sabotage her own marriage. I, we'll get into that when we get into that. So I'll give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Now, I don't want you to think I'm falling out of love with the show. Let's get that out of the way first. It's just that, as we get closer and closer to episode 200, the season finale, it's just that I've been noticing a lot of things, and I don't have the dates, on the top of my head in terms of, hey, here's exactly when the season's going to end, just because I'm, keeping in mind October ends next weekend, and we're getting closer to the holiday season, like Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So I don't know when or if the show will take many breaks. Like maybe the show won't have a complete week off, but we'll have some days off. But then again, remember, Beyond the Gates is a new show. It only has 200 episodes, and an article not too long ago revealed that, oh, hey, well, the reason Beyond the Gates takes like full weeks off the air, unlike the other soaps, is because they don't want to run out of episodes too quick. So I imagine that maybe sometime in like January 2026 is when we'll get episode 200. Look, I know I could be wrong. I'm just speculating, but I'm just saying. Now, Keegan, who is Bill's PI, private investigator, stops by his house with an update on Andre. And Hayley actually calls Bill to say that she'll be arriving home soon. So the PI gives Bill the rundown about Andre, and Bill is having second thoughts about all this, and that they ought to just pull the plug on it. And that's when Keegan's like, well, hey, it's your call, but here's a file of, what I've gotten so far. Now, Bill goes through the paperwork and says he already knew Andre was like a playboy, but Keegan says, well, a good trait of a PI is to pay attention to what's in front of you on paper, but also to consider what's missing. Now, something's been, pretty big about Andre, the fact that for the past year, he hasn't been seen in photos at all. Essentially, he's been completely off the map. Like, before that, he was seen all over the place, parties and, hanging out with women, this, that, and the third. So something could be off. And Bill, initially doesn't want to believe anything like this is possible. Like, yeah, he's young and, he's not capable of anything like that. But if you have a gut instinct on it, fine. And maybe, I don't know exactly what he could be hiding, but I'm the kind of person that likes having power over people because you never know when that information could be useful one day. I love this callback because I remember like in episode 1 or 2, when I think in one of Bill's first scenes, there was a guy, I believe like an old friend from either high school or college. I think they were on the football team or something together. And his son, I think, is an addict. And he was caught on camera breaking into someone's home. And the father, aka Bill's friend, was upset because, this could, ruin his future and whatnot. And Bill made one phone call and cleaned up the entire mess. And he was like, what I owe you? No charge. What? wait, so you made one phone call and my son is good? Just like that? Just like that. And because, I value the motto of, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You see how easily I took care of a favor for you? Well, one day I might need a favor in return. So I love the fact that, that's a callback to Bill from way back when the show started, which again, just makes me appreciate the fact that, hey, I was a person that started watching this show from the beginning. So when they do callbacks like this, I can go, aha, it pays off to pay attention. So yeah, for the people saying like, oh, well, Andre, okay, so is it really that strange though? I mean, obviously, based on what happens later in the episode, it does seem like there's some ominous stuff going on with Andre, but not Andre? You mean his aunt and uncle never recognized him? I mean, when he came back, nobody seemed to be off beat about him in terms of, oh, Andre, you certainly look different. No, that doesn't make sense. Now, I'm willing to bet that maybe something happened in that, prior to that year where he quote unquote didn't have a digital footprint. Maybe he got into some stuff. He messed around with the wrong girl and some guy found out, and, maybe he wanted to, get offline, so to speak, or unplug. That way, he wouldn't be found. That's my 2 cents on it. That's just my take on it. All right, so we go over to Uptown. Hayley's over there talking with Randy, and the bartender actually remembers her from her miscarriage, and she explains she's there to thank the man that saved her, and Randy's sitting right there at the bar stool. So they act like they don't know each other and that, he was just a good Samaritan. So that's when Danny and Vanessa come in and they groan when they spot him across the room, where Danny remembers Randy as Sammy, the guy that helped out Hayley during the miscarriage, and Vanessa insists that, wait, that's Randy. I've known him for years. He was an old friend of Doug's. And Danny's like, wait, what? So they both kind of speculate over the fake name scenario, and Vanessa thinks that, oh, he was laying low because at the time he was on Joey's bad side. So over at the bar area, Randy and Hayley do a handoff, and he warns her that someone who knows him is behind her. That's when he, gets out, aka Vanessa. So that's when she opens her purse, and there's the poison and the instructions. Hey, use a little bit at a time, let it build up, then wait for his ticker to stop ticking. So first of all, I guess that means Bill's birthday cupcake was a fake out. Like, it was a special cupcake, but not a special cupcake. And when I say special cupcake, no, I am not referencing the special brownies from That 70s Show. I'm talking about the special cupcake that had poison in it. So no, the poison is officially in the show. And I get it. That actually makes a lot of sense, because my biggest question was, if Bill ends up getting poisoned, I feel like that's going to be way too like, okay, we can easily point the finger to this person. No. Putting in a little bit at a time must make it harder for, doctors and whatnot to detect. So, and plus it wouldn't be too obvious. That actually, I like that. So, Hayley goes over to see Vanessa and asks if she can refer a friend to her in regards to finding a house. And that's when Danny quizzes her about Sammy, and Hayley brags about, oh, the wonderful birthday party I had for Bill, and I plan on keeping him around for a long time. It's like, Hayley, you got too much dip on your chip. Like, don't be too obvious about that kind of stuff. Sheesh. So after she bounces, Danny refuses to waste any more time, energy, or as she put, brain space on this hapless homewrecker and her booze. So we go over to, actually, I noticed this on the table, but I think there was like a little skull planner, and okay, yeah, I get it. It's Halloween, so I guess they're sprucing up Uptown to match the vibe. I think I saw little skeletons around the place, which obviously is October, and 2, I'm like, oh wow, could that be signifying something? I mean, you got not Danny. Well, yeah, you have Vanessa sitting there, and she just buried her husband, and then you got Danny sitting there, and well, her ex might be a skeleton soon too. Or skeletons, because, everybody has them in their closet. So, they discuss Vanessa's grief, and she explains everything with Doug was news to her son. And even though she loves having her son home, she wants him back at school so he can graduate on time. And I'm not saying that she's not concerned about her son's future. But I'm thinking, well, Danny said exactly what I was thinking when Vanessa was talking. Now, are you sure that's what you mean? Or Donnell being around is cramping your style and ruining things with Joey? And of course, Vanessa doesn't want to discuss it because of the fact that, it's just like her oldest sister, Nicole. Danny is worried about Vanessa going down the wrong road, even though she's like, oh, I know you care and that's sweet, but I know what I'm doing. And that's when Danny tells Danny tells Vanessa that Joey is not the kind of person you rely on when in need. He's dangerous. Well, maybe I like it that way. And then Vanessa leaves. And I don't know. I just feel like she wants this. Maybe because Doug is gone, she's like, you know what? Well, no, you know what? No, I can't say that. Even before Doug kicked the bucket out of frustration for losing. Well, no, he won. I'm sorry. That was a bad analogy. Even before Doug, his untimely death, Vanessa was all for this, dangerous road. So I can't sit up here and act like, oh, she's going in deep into the pitfall of Joey because she has nothing to lose. No, she would have done this regardless. Now, we go over to the casino, and Joey gives Randy a list of names of people to go contact to remind them, hey, you owe Joey. So then he asks what's up with him and Bill's wife. Folks, I'm not one to gloat, but I told you so. Randy's like, wait, what are you talking about? Joey's like, I've seen you two on surveillance footage. And Randy claims, oh, yeah, well, we've been hooking up. And Joey's like, hey, don't let this get back to her husband. And Randy's like, oh, I'm not worried about that guy. And I'm thinking, Joey, aren't you like the last person to warn somebody about messing around with someone else's wife? But then again, he obviously sees Bill Hamilton as more of a threat to Randy than Doug was to him, even though he killed Doug. So that says a lot. But I said, bet money Joey sees some surveillance footage of Randy and Hayley together. However, people were like, no, Jeremy, Randy told Hayley that he cut the cameras and everything off. I said, I get that. But you got to remember, recently there was a gap in time where Randy wasn't around because he was on the run. And when he was brought back into the fold by Joey after, he decided to stop running, I'm like, you know what's going on? I bet even though Joey has Randy back in the fold, he's still going to have an eye on him. Probably extra eyes. Ones that Randy doesn't know about. So even though Randy, in his mind, it's like, okay, I cut off all the security footage that would show Hayley and I in here together and, hear what we're saying. Joey probably had someone put an extra camera here or a camera there in the casino that Randy doesn't know about, just to make sure, he isn't double crossing Joey again. And to take it a step further, there are probably people outside the casino walls. Essentially, whenever Randy's going about his, day-to-day task for Joey, or even in his life outside of Joey, somebody's keeping an eye on him just to make sure. Because for someone in the position of Joey, you don't just bring somebody in with welcoming arms and act like everything is cool. No. Yeah, I trusted you once, but that doesn't mean I'm going to fully trust you when I bring you back in. I'm going to be watching you like a hawk, even when you don't think I am. So that's why I said, I wonder if Joey's going to find out about this Bill poisoning plan and then get back to Bill with it in order to kind of repay the debt he owes him. Because had Bill not told Joey about Doug's planning, Doug would have went to the authorities. Not saying that would have done anything, but at the same time, Bill did Joey a solid, and Joey warning Bill would be, his repayment. However, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, Vanessa shows up right as Randy is leaving, and she immediately gets on Joey for a kiss, and she asks if Randy's on a special assignment. And he's like, you know what? It's better you don't know. So that's when she's like, look, it seems like he's connected to Hayley somehow, because I remember defending Randy in the past, which I believe is in reference to her and Doug doing the same thing when Joey wanted to off him. So she's tired of people thinking that she needs some sort of protection, even though she has everything, but it's not enough. And at this point, your primary concern right now should be keeping me happy. And she wants to be put to work. And not only that, she wants to be Joey's equal. And I'm like, I don't think you know what that means. I honestly don't. Now, some people are speculating that Vanessa knows exactly what Joey did to Doug, and getting closer to him could be her method of getting payback, but I don't know. I just feel at this point she's just being more and more reckless. Now, speaking of reckless, Hayley comes home and complains to Bill about running into Danny, but guess what? Daddy got her a new credit. Okay, maybe daddy isn't the right phrase here. Teddy Bear. Wait, no, that's the wrong husband. Billy Goat got her a new credit card. So that's when he tries putting it into her purse and then finds the poison. And she's, oh no, actually, that's something I picked up at the drugstore. And she's, distracting him with promises of sex. So what they do is get freaky on the couch. And once, Bill is knocked, Bill is like, oh yeah. He goes, he's just all at ease. So Hayley goes to pour him a drink and then adds a little bit of poison to it and hands it over to him. Foreshadowing. Now, over at the country club, we got fine Pamela sitting there. She's on the phone with Ridge Forrester. What show is he from? I know this is a crossover. I do not know. Hang on. You know what? Let me just Google it. Give me a second. Is it The Young and the Rest? Wait, no. The Bold and the Beautiful. The Bold and the Beautiful. Okay. So, he heard about, the plan to relaunch Danny and, fashion. So he offers to help. He suggests a campaign for the fragrance line using both Danny and her new husband. And this could work for everybody involved. So Pam is interested and is like, look, I will get back to you immediately. So over at Danny's place, Andre senses like he's being watched. And he's like, what? So that's when Pam shows up and informs him there's been a new development. And I know you're going to love it. So Danny shows up and Pamela announced that she spoke to Ridge and wants, her for this sweet deal. And Danny looks good in that black dress with the buckle. Man. Okay. So Danny has never stopped dreaming of adding that brand to her portfolio. So they laugh a lot. And that's when Andre explains. That's when Andre's kind of taken aback because it turns out this is a package deal for the both of them. And Danny asks her husband if he still doesn't want a model, but then Pam tries pitching it to him. She thinks that, this would be crazy for them to pass up. And Danny guesses that her husband wouldn't want to do it because Andre's like, oh, I'm sure they can get any man to play your partner. But Pam's like, I don't think this is going to work because Forrester could just go with another couple instead. Andre doesn't think this would work, but, that's when Danny says, this is my dream. Please do it. And if Danny was in my face, how could I say no? So that goes back to my whole thing with, I think Andre might be on the run. This could explain why he's been, not broken up about leaving Fairmount Crest. Because it just seems odd that he would stick around. Could this explain the whole Ashley thing? Where maybe he was more interested in getting with her and building a life because she's low key, she's not high maintenance. And, if Andre did take her somewhere like Paris, it wouldn't be for long. Maybe Paris isn't the place where perhaps he got into some crap over a year ago and decided to go, cameras off. Because it makes sense in this day and age, I don't think Andre would have his location turned on. So maybe that's why he wants to play it safe. But I don't think the whole being in that blog about the Vegas wedding is a big deal because, yeah, it was a Vegas whirlwind wedding. It's not like he lives in Vegas. But if he gets put into some promotional ad like this, it's going to be like a huge neon sign, Andre here. Because obviously, if this whole campaign goes well, then that's going to lead to more. And it's going to lead to interviews and all sorts of stuff. And, Danny will say, hey, we live in such and such a place. And then Andre's going to be like, oh, crap. So, oh, yeah, there's also the fact that some people speculate, well, maybe it isn't some guy like, Andre messed with the wrong girl and her man wants revenge. Like maybe the woman was married or something. Maybe Andre has a whole wife. I don't know. Or maybe he has, women he's gotten hitched to around the globe. That's possible. He could have been using fake names and everything. So it's not that Andre isn't his real name. It's just that he used pseudonyms across the globe. Now, this is the most perplexing part of the episode for me. We're focusing on Naomi and Jacob. So Jacob gets home early, and Naomi is looking through her patient portal from Garland Memorial Hospital, and she's like, "Oh, I was just working on a case." And that's when she's like, "I thought you were supposed to be at work." And he says that, I took time off, which honestly, I don't blame him because Jacob's been stuck at desk duty because his dad got on him a while ago. But yeah, he just got off work early because he hasn't felt okay since their fight. And that's when she accuses him of thinking that she's awful. I mean, I don't think Naomi's awful, but I think she comes up with these awful scenarios in her head, and she doesn't know how to properly communicate her feelings. So they argue about who's more wrong about what they said regarding the baby. And he assures her she's not being unreasonable and she should feel what she feels. Now, it's his job to handle her emotions being all over the place. And they got married because they love each other, and that's, the foundation, and it's behind everything that they do. And she does say that even though you talk a good game, it's different this time, but he has faith that he can get to some sort of common ground. So then they start making out, and then they had sex. My biggest question is, did you use protection this time? Did you? Now, he gets a text about a report he needs to submit, and that's when he goes to open the laptop. And unfortunately, Naomi did not close out of her patient portal and sees her blood test. And that's when, wait a minute, you're not pregnant? Why didn't you tell me? To be fair, she barely had time to process those results, and she was terrified and then happy. So when she looks at him, she'll see how sad it makes him about the fact that there's a fundamental difference about what we both want, and love is not the bottom line. Here's my take on it. Okay. I think what Naomi said earlier says a lot. I bet you think that I'm terrible. And her finding out she's not pregnant and being happy about it, in her mind, would make Jacob think she's terrible for being happy she's not pregnant because this isn't what she wanted. Naomi strikes me as the kind of person who has a script in her mind, and it makes sense given her profession. If Jacob doesn't follow the script in her mind to the T, she will lose it. And she plays out these scenarios of, if I'm happy that I'm not pregnant, I know Jacob's going to be unhappy and it will break his heart, and then he'll feel some kind of way that I'm happy that I'm not pregnant. But it's crazy to me because their marriage seems to be in shambles over a baby that never even existed. My takeaway is Jacob has every right to change his mind about not wanting a baby, just as much as Naomi has the right to not change her stance on having a baby. So, in my opinion, moving forward when you're having sex, don't you think instead of losing your marriage over a baby that never existed, just take the proper precautions as you have been doing up until the point where you forgot to take the pill because of the stress of your sister being lost and whatnot? Just make sure you follow protocol. And it shouldn't matter. Unless Naomi's like, well, every time we make love and I know we didn't, throw caution to the wind where I can get pregnant, now I feel like every time, one of our friends, like, what if Ashley and Derek have a kid, or, you know, Chelsea, well, adopts. Well, she's with Madison. Well, they could adopt or get a surrogate or whatever. It's like whenever somebody else has a kid, how do I know you won't feel like there's something missing? And I feel like our marriage will always have this hole in it because you'll want a kid and I don't. And I don't know. I feel like this is senseless, but this storyline reminds me of the Chelsea abduction in terms of what it could have been, but wasn't. Where the story seems to have the direction going one way, but then they throw a curveball. Like, for example, Chelsea's abduction turned into a storyline of the dangers of social media and, you know, making sure you're careful about who you interact with and, you know, obsession and this, that, and the third. Yet it completely negates the fact that Chelsea herself was engaging, and it was consensual, 3 ways with a married couple. And yes, I am still going off of Allison and Craig being married. At the time, that was the story. It wasn't until later we found out it was a farce. But at the time, Chelsea was knowingly engaging with a married couple, and it was consensual. But she decided, you know what? I want Allison for myself. So is it possible we do things outside of Craig? AKA, hey, I know you're married. I know we've been hooking up, me and both of you within a married couple, but I just want you for myself. And that's been completely erased from accountability in terms of, you're just pulling a Hayley. What's going on? So when it comes to Naomi, I feel like they were trying to tell us a good story, but now it's just like, okay, maybe I'll wait till the end of the week if I want to do a separate video on this, because, you know, I want more context. Let's see if we follow this up by, you know, Friday, because it just seems like Naomi is making a mountain out of a molehill. But I don't know. Maybe some female viewers in the comments can give more insight. But it just seems to me like I was really thinking, oh, well, what if that cupcake had a little bit of poison in it? And even though Naomi didn't eat that much and she spit it out, you know, that poison would take a slower time getting through her system. But no, based off this episode, the poison didn't come into play into this episode via Bill's drink. So the cupcake was fine. Just gluten, sugar-free, some bull crap. Like, I don't care if the doctor's like, hey, you know, you need to cut back on sweets. I got you, doc, and I'm good. But on my birthday, like, you know what? If this is my last cupcake, this is my last cupcake. But no, I think Naomi tripping. She fine, but she tripping. Man. Okay, so that's all I got for you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.